boy Luke, here for a little bit of a different video. We've got our JockMKT top players to target for the IPO phase tonight. If you guys haven't heard of JockMKT before, it's essentially the stock market for DFS. You invest into shares of players and end up getting rewarded based on their performance. You end up getting paid out based on their ranking as compared to other players. And overall, because it's a little bit new in its development, I found myself to be really profitable over there. So for all of my videos going forward for covering the NBA, we're going to do it from this perspective. It's going to give me a little bit more of a unique niche in this field, as I don't really put out any NBA content to this point. And at the same time, of course, you guys can still get some insights into your DraftKings lineups and your FanDuel stuff, which I'll be playing as well, which I do every single day. So again, format of this video, we're going to go over the top 6 players that I'm going to be targeting. We talk about their target price, what I'll be willing to pay for them, where I project them on the board, and of course where they're projected in the board to begin with, where a lot of people gain their value from. So with all that being said, let's hop right into it. The first player I see myself buying quite a few shares of is going to be Bam Adebayo of this Miami Heat team. He's somebody who's always a little bit overlooked when it comes to JockMKT, and it just comes down to the scoring system. Over there in JockMKT, you do get negative points for shots missed, which makes it a little bit unique compared to DraftKings and FanDuel, which makes some of the big men really attractive options, particularly the big men that aren't out there taking a ton of threes, that are high percentage players, just like somebody like Bam. And against this matchup in Minnesota, he should also see a little bit of a bump in production due to the plus matchup. We know the Timberwolves are one of the least efficient defenses in the NBA. They're also one of the highest paced teams in the NBA. So even though Miami Heat tend to run a little bit slow, also tend to be a very efficient defensive team, I see that being mitigated by this good matchup. So as a result, I'm looking at Bam at right around $7.25. You can see I haven't projected in the top 10 in terms of his projection, which would make him excellent value at that type of price. The issue with guys in this 15 to 25 range in terms of their pre-ranking is they tend to be a little bit overrated. People love to spend in that range. They seem to be safe, but when you take a look at the payouts, if you don't crack that top 20 and you're spending over $7 for a player, you're losing money. So you definitely have to pick your spots in this range, and Bam definitely fits all the boxes for me here tonight. Next up, we have Chris Paul, who's another person in this range that I'm going to be taking a few shots on. The reason why they are at the bottom of this board is I feel the least confident about them. Their range of outcomes for these players is a little bit higher than some of the other players on this list. But if I'm going to take anybody in this a little bit risky range on the JockMKT, it is going to be Chris Paul. He's somebody who's going to give you contributions across the board, whether it's in terms of scoring, assists, rebounds, steals, blocks. This guy does it all. So in this matchup against Cleveland, it's also an attractive matchup. Not only has Phoenix been playing at a much higher pace this year, also has scored a lot more points as a result. Teams have started to score a lot more points against them. Last year, they were a top 5 defensive team. This year, they rank in the bottom 10, so quite a turnaround for that team. Fortunately for them, they've had the offense to offset that. They've still been an elite team here in 2021, and I expect that to continue going forward. On the other side of things in Cleveland, we have quite a few injuries to deal with. So as a result, they've been in some shootouts of late. Fortunately for them, they've been able to keep up. Their scoring has been there. So I do think this is a sneaky matchup to go out and be a shootout. Both offenses have been clicking of late. They both run at very high paces. So Chris Paul, anytime there's going to be a shootout type of a game, is going to see some crazy usage. He's going to be getting plenty of assists. He's going to get a few more rebounds than usual. He's already one of the best players in terms of fantasy scoring, particularly on JockMKT to begin with. A lot of that comes down to his shooting percentage. Chris Paul does not take bad shots. He's out there only taking very high percentage shots. So as a result, in terms of the guard position, has one of, if not the highest shooting percentages over the last month. So I like targeting them there. I have it rated around a $7 target price. Again, a lot of the guys in this range tend to be a little bit overpriced. So if they go for above these target prices, I won't be on them. But of course, I'll have my eye on them intently, as I have them projected right around the $9 or $10 mark in terms of their value. Next up, the guy at the top of the board, I don't always love targeting him. Last night I had Nikola Jokic shares, which boy did not go well. I'm not sure if I'm going to get a refund of those. I don't believe I am, because he was marked as a game time decision. But today we don't have to deal with that type of madness. We have Giannis, no injury to speak of, will be playing tonight against the Detroit Pistons. So he comes in as the number 1 ranked player. I still have him as the number 1 ranked player in my projections. So the thing is with these top ranked players, sometimes they go a little bit overlooked. Last night, Jokic was only $13. That's why I ended up taking a few shots on him. Obviously, didn't end up playing, which was a little bit disappointing. But time and time again, we'll see some of these guys like Giannis go out there, end up playing, still only go for like $14, $15, and their floor performance is truly like number 4 or 5 on the board. That means at the very least, you're probably going to get $12 to $13 for their shares. So anytime I can get them for right in that $14 to $15 range, it is absolute money, because if they go out there, finish first place, you're winning $10 per share. They win a second place, you're still winning $5 a share. It's hard not to profit on these guys long term. I like going to them. Again, it really comes down to the price tag. There's some times where they just go drastically overpriced, but I don't expect that to be the case tonight. In this matchup against the Pistons, a lot of people in the industry are talking about potential blowout risk, so do expect people to be a little bit cautious with Giannis. But even in these type of blowouts, he's shown the ability to go out there and get you 45 to 50 fantasy points on JockMKT. And because of the negative points for shots missed, guys like Giannis are at a huge advantage when it comes to the JockMKT. He gets a lot of his production done via defensive stats, also via rebounds and assists. You also get an extra boost for every 10 points you score. So Giannis Antetokounmpo is just a great spot there on the JockMKT. And if he ends up coming in at less than $14.50, will definitely be somebody that I'm prioritizing. Now for our top 3, a couple just shots a little bit further down the board, and our number 1 option is just drastically misrepresented in this pre-rank. At number 3, though, another guy who's also drastically misrepresented would be Andre Drummond. He comes in as the pre-rank at number 74, which frankly makes no sense. We're expecting Tobias Harris to be a game-time decision, and if he ends up being out, Andre Drummond could potentially be a top 10 player on this slate. As of right now, I am projecting Tobias Harris in, but even with that type of production, projected for 36.5 fantasy points, it comes in as a top 30 player. With the type of pre-rank that he has, we're expecting him to probably go right around $2, maybe $3 at the most. I think people are going to see him further down the board and obviously identify this type of value like we have at the same time. But at the same time, he's not going to go for $5 or $6. And in reality, this guy has true $7, $8, maybe even $10 upside in terms of his return. In this matchup against the Warriors, it's not one of the better matchups on the slate. Obviously, the Warriors have been the best defensive team to this point in the entire season, which is surprising. A lot of people would have expected that to be Utah, but Golden State has been even better. Andre Drummond is almost matchup proof. He gets a lot of his production via his rebounds. He gets a lot of it via his defensive stats as well. Isn't really going out there scoring 20 or 30 points. So I really like him at this instance. I have him at a target price of $4.50, which isn't anything crazy. Obviously, you're looking to get right around 28 to 30 fantasy points at that range to make a good profit. But he's truly somebody who has 40 to even 50 point upside. Could be the penny stock that goes out and ends up winning you the $25 for first. So I will have a ton of Andre Drummond tonight. At number 2, we have Montrezl Harrell, who is probably the MVP of the JockMKT. This guy is always underpriced. He is always way lower on the pre-rank than he should be. And to this point of the year, has the highest return of any player. If you just were to invest in Montrezl Harrell, every single slate to this point of the year, you would probably be really happy with your performance. So the matchup against the Pelicans is also a plus matchup. The Pelicans tend to run with some of the highest pace of anybody in the NBA. This Washington team, we've known this for years now. They love running at high pace. They're also horrible on the defensive side of things. So it's not a surprise that you see at number 2 and number 1, we are targeting this game heavily. Let's talk about Harrell first, though. It comes in as the 70th ranked player in the pre-rank. Comes in at just projected under 30 fantasy points, and frankly, that's disrespectful. Over these last 2 weeks, he's averaging well over 36 fantasy points per game on the JockMKT, and a lot of it just reflects his status over on DraftKings and FanDuel. The reality is, though, Harrell projects much better on the JockMKT. You get more of a boost for some of those defensive stats, for some of those peripherals. So as a result, I'm targeting there at $3.15. I don't expect him to go for very much on this slate. I have him projected for around $6 to even $7 worth of value. So I'm looking for a huge return here on Montrezl Harrell. So that's why I have him there at number 2. And at number 1, Jonas Valanciunas, on the other side of that game, like I've already mentioned, he comes in as the pre-ranked number 31 golfer on this player on the slate, not golfer. Too much into the PGA Tour. We're off this week. It's again to me. Valanciunas, though, projected for 35 fantasy points. I have him closer to 45 fantasy points. Again, this matchup against the Wizards is ideal. And if we take a look at his game scores over these last few weeks, Valanciunas is well exceeding 35 fantasy points. As even with the reinsertion of Brandon Ingram back into the lineup, a lot of people expected Valanciunas to see a downturn in his production. Emali has seen a slight downturn. I mean, at the beginning of the year, this guy was one of the best, if not the best, fantasy players in the world. At this point, he's downgraded, but still one of the elite players at the center position. So much like everyone else on this list, somebody who's not going to miss very many shots, also somebody who's in one of the best matchups on the slate. And because of his pre-rank, I expect him to go a little bit overlooked. I have him projected right now to go right around $6, and I'll pay the whole way up to $6.50 for him. He's bringing intense value. He's also somebody who gives you a relatively high floor, should be a safe play on this slate, but also gives you the kind of upside to potentially even take down that number 1 slot. So I like him there a whole lot, and that's why he comes in at number 1. That is all for the Jock Market picks. Let me know in the comments if you guys enjoyed this type of content. First time doing it here on the channel. So over time, obviously it'll get a little bit more polished. We'll be able to get some better graphics out for you. And overall, just bring you some better content. So let me know in the comments if you guys enjoyed it. Also, let me know who you guys are targeting as your favorite stock for tonight. Obviously, for me, it's probably Jonas Valanciunas. Just got to make sure that he's going for cheap enough to make him profitable. I know Montrezl Harrell is going to be overlooked. He just perpetually is on the Jock Market. So at the very least, I know I'll be getting plenty of those shares. But let me know who you'll be targeting tonight. And as always, really appreciate all of your support here on the channel. If you guys haven't already liked the video or subscribed to the channel, make sure you guys go ahead and do so. We're going to have plenty of NBA content coming out in the future. I'm going to try and make this a regular program here, particularly for some of the larger slates in the NBA. Of course, we already have PGA Tour content coming out. We're going to have NFL content and pretty much something for everyone out there, even UFC content from time to time. So good luck tonight, guys. Hopefully you guys get all of the shares that you're targeting, and good luck.